Using the SSE workout, you can start getting fitter and burning fat or building muscle right away. But what if you want to become the next Arnold Schwarzenegger? What if you want to become incredibly bulky, ripped, and hench? In that case, you might think that your only option is to start lifting weights, but you would be wrong. In fact, there are a number of ways that you can build big muscle using body weight alone, and it's probably a lot easier than you suspect. In this video, we're going to be looking at how building muscle works, and we're going to look at how you can do it using body weight. This is all about theory. Towards the end of the series, we'll be looking at individual body weight moves that you can use and providing a kind of glossary of exercises for you to dip in and out of. So watch this and apply it to those moves. Although, to be honest, you can do most of this with just the regular few bodyweight exercises that you probably already know. So let's take a look at how to build muscle. Muscle growth in response to training is technically known as hypertrophy. Hypertrophy is what bodybuilding is all about, and if you're trying to look big and bulky, it's what you need to be all about as well. So the question is, how does hypertrophy work? How can you stimulate your body to produce more muscle? And the answer is that you need to provide the body with volume. Volume is what defines the intensity of your training, and it can come either from increasing the weight or from increasing the number of repetitions, or both. This triggers changes in the muscle which causes it to grow, and it's widely believed that there are two different mechanisms through which this can occur: sarcoplasmic hypertrophy and myofibrillar hypertrophy. Sarcoplasmic hypertrophy is the kind of hypertrophy that is caused when you increase the number of repetitions. This is the kind of muscle growth that you get when you train with rep ranges of around 12 to 15 or even higher. It's also increased when you increase your time under tension, which is the amount of time that you spend actually straining under the weight, rather than setting it down to rest between sets. When you increase the number of repetitions you perform and when you hold the weight in position, you're calling on your muscles' endurance. This in turn relies on the amount of fluid and the amount of energy, otherwise known as ATP, stored in the muscle cells, the sarcoplasm. When you use this kind of training, it means that the muscle is constantly tensed and working. In turn, this causes the blood to occlude. In other words, it gets sent to the muscle and it stays there. This is also what causes us to get the feeling of pump when we're working out. As this happens, you also get a buildup of metabolites. These are muscle building products that are found in the blood and that you end up flooding your muscles. Now, metabolites include the likes of testosterone, growth hormone, and IGF-1. You also get a lot of nutrients in here. As a result, the muscle responds by growing and specifically by swelling and taking on more water mass. This gives the muscles a bigger, bloated look. They may be quite soft, but it's a great way to get big fast and to increase your ability to perform large sets of exercise. Okay, let's talk about myofibrillar hypertrophy. Because another thing that occurs as you train is that you create tiny tears in the muscle fiber. These are called micro tears, and they're so small as to not be damaging in any way or to be all that painful, although this can lead to DOMS the next day, which is delayed onset muscle soreness. What these micro tears can do, though, is to cause the muscle to appear damaged to the body, and that means it needs to get repaired. When you're resting later on, the body will use protein from your diet in order to rebuild the muscle, and each of those muscle fibers will come back slightly thicker and slightly stronger than before. This increases size and strength, and the best way to trigger this kind of hypertrophy is by training with heavy weights. And this is how power lifters will train, and it's how they manage to get very strong lifting a weight only a few times. What you also need to know about is the different types of muscle fiber. Your muscles have a number of different kinds of muscle fibers that make them up, and each has a slightly different role. In general, though, we can split these muscle fibers into two categories, which are fast twitch and slow twitch. Fast twitch fibers are capable of creating greater acceleration and greater force, and that means that they are the most useful kinds for lifting heavy weights. Your body will use these first when you start to move a heavy weight, and once they become fatigued or torn, it will move on to the slower twitch fibers. Eventually, you don't have enough power to move the weight, but some slow twitch fibers will remain, meaning you're still able to move your arms. There's something else that occurs here too, and that's that you're also strengthening your mind muscle connection. This is the ability of your brain to actually use the muscle you've got in order to exert force, and the more you train, the greater that ability becomes. Each time you contract a muscle, you do so by sending signals from your brain through your central nervous system. When that signal reaches the end of the nerve, acetylcholine is released across the neuromuscular junction, and this causes the muscle cells to fire. As you do this repeatedly, you're actually able to increase the number of nuclei in your muscle cells, called myonuclei, which means that more of your muscle fibers can fire in response to that signal. This also contributes to extra muscle growth because the number of nuclei is directly related to protein synthesis, the ability of the muscles to use the protein in your diet to build muscle.